making provisions for your marriage, right? And it was so profound to me because you think you do your vows, these are the things that you say that you can't do, but adding in things that are like, hey, this is a deal breaker for
Fearlessly.
me. And it was like,
I am continuing in this series of marriage and love and overcoming obstacles. Man, I am so honored to have this couple with me today. A couple I love personally. Bravehearts community, let's show some love to Al and Nicole Lockwood. How are y'all doing this evening?
doing
Great,
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 doing great.
great.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, definitely.
Yes, for sure. I appreciate it. We're going to talk about a bunch of things about love and longevity. How long have y'all been married now?
It'll be 15 years in October this year. So, yeah.
Ooh, that's what's up. I
Yes.
love it. The couple I had on the other day, they were married for 21 years. And
Yeah.
I remember just knowing them in Cleveland, growing up there. And I mean, like one of the lady I interviewed the other day, she went to school with my little sister, and I'm just like, time is flying so fast. It's
It
crazy.
is. It is.
Flying by.
Yeah, right. So I want to jump into this segment because 15 years, a lot has occurred in those years. One thing I always talk about with marriages is great marriages are found. I mean, great marriages are built, they're not found, right? It takes time. But I want to talk about how did you both meet each other and how did you both know that you were the one?
Mm. So,
Yeah, I can start.
mhm.
We've told this a million times, and so each of us has a little bit of a not a different version, but he likes to share certain parts. So I was married before, and divorced and moved back to Missouri, which is my hometown. And at the time, my son was 3 years old. So we moved back to Missouri to be closer to family, and that's also where I'm from. Reconnected with some friends that lived there. And one of my friends was a mutual friend of Al's. And I had saw Al, and I'm like, my gosh, she's so handsome. And he kind of gave him my phone number, and Al called, and I missed his call, and I kept his voicemail for so long because his voice was so nice and his voicemail was so sweet. And we ended up going to the movies, and I'll let you go from there.
All right. So, should I rewind a little
You
bit?
can rewind if you want.
What movie did y'all go see?
Uh,
We went to see Norbit, which
yeah,
is our favorite
yeah.
movie now. We used to watch it every year on our anniversary
Mhm.
because Norbit's a very funny movie, and it was kind of like a random first
Mhm.
date movie. But yeah, Norbit.
Yes.
For sure.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Al.
So, real quick. So, I'm gonna rewind just a little bit. So, originally, we met in a barber shop. So there was this one barber in the town that it's a small town of 2,000 people. The base, Whiteman Air Force Base, made that town pretty much. So anyway, everyone knew this barber, and usually so I cut my own hair, but like that was one thing when I first went in the military. I was like, I'm gonna learn how to cut my hair because I don't know who's gonna cut it. I'll be moving around, but every now and again I would go. So trying to speed this up a little bit. So I went to this barber. He wasn't there because he had a bunch of different other jobs. He was just trying to make it, trying to do things. And he had this woman in the barbershop cutting hair, and she had this gentleman in the seat. His hair looked pretty good. I was like, okay, I'll sit. I'll wait. So long story short, she messed my hair completely. Like messed it up completely. So I go home. I call the guy. His name is Mike, and he's like, come back, I'll take care of you, for free, And I was like, okay, fine. So go back, and I'm sitting in the chair,
Mhm.
and this beautiful woman walks in, and like slightly, I'm checking her out. I think she was checking me out, but
I
we
wasn't.
didn't
I
know
was
at
not.
the time at all, right? So, but it's so funny because we were sitting there talking about my bad haircut, from last week, that whole situation, and we were laughing, and how Miss Nicole is. She's like, oh, I'm so I'm so sad, I'm so sorry that that happened. So, needless to say, that brings us back to the part that she said, one of our mutual friends, I think she's seen me on what's the site back then?
MySpace.
MySpace.
It was
It was
MySpace.
MySpace, I think. And then we connected mutual friends, and she was like, "Oh, the guy's name was Chris." She was like, "Oh, Chris, you know Al," and and then that's all she wrote. Then we went on our first date, and the part that I always tell on our first date is like so the reason why we watched so much of that movie afterwards because we didn't really watch the movie
Yeah.
in the movie theater. We talked a lot,
The entire time.
tried to
Yeah.
get to know each other. I always joke in Nicole because it felt like she was getting closer to me, like as
Movie
we were
seats are so
talking.
close to
You
my
know,
arm. We were sharing it.
and I,
He says that I was
yeah,
like trying to
I'm
hold
pretty
his
sure
arm.
she was like
I was
leaning,
soft
getting
arm.
closer. So I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, and then that's all she wrote after that. We had
Yeah.
that date and had another date, and I think after the third date, we were like, yeah,
But we
this
were
is it.
together every day
Yeah.
since then. And so when we went to the movies, he told me that he already had orders to Korea for a year. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's bad news. We just met, like we connected, and he already told me that he was going to Korea. And so, I remember calling my mom. My mom's like, hey, just enjoy yourself. Like, he seems like a nice person, And so we were together every day until he left to Korea. Um, and then he went to Korea, and then I went to Korea to go visit him for 2 weeks. So went and visited him and spent 2 weeks there. And he asked me if we wanted to move to Arizona once he got back, because his follow-on was Luke Air Force Base. And I grew up where you didn't shack up. So instantly I said no. I was like, we're just gonna have to do a long distance relationship. And he had done that before, and it didn't go very well. So he's kind of like, I really don't want to do that. And so we just kind of really came to the middle, and I decided, I wanted to be with him. So he got back, and we packed up the U-Haul and we moved to Arizona. And then we got married a few months later. So we did shack up a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a tad, a few months.
That is funny. So first date, real quick. First date, y'all go to the movies. Y'all go in the movies and talk throughout the whole movie.
We did. And so I'm from there, and there's a Mexican restaurant that is my favorite. And we were supposed to go there, but Al had a little bit of an upset stomach. So we had to skip dinner. And we laugh about that too, because I know him now. And I'm like, yep, that makes sense. But no, we didn't. We just talked. His birthday is April the 4th. Mine is April the 10th. And then Carlton's, my son, is April the 22nd. So we're like, oh my gosh, like there was just so many things that we couldn't stop talking about, that we really weren't focused on a movie. We were really just kind of getting to know each other.
How old is Carlton now?
20 years old.
He literally just left today.
He did. He was home this weekend, 20 years old. So, I mean, and that's funny that you asked that, because in the perspective of our relationship, Carlton was 3 when we met. And, so we just kind of, that's always a perspective of how long we've been together and, how old he's getting by just our relationship in general.
Oh my God. Yeah. Because I remember seeing him. He was little dude in church.
Yeah.
Oh my God, how time flies. I'm getting old.
I should have got tissues. I told myself I was gonna cry through this, but just
No, it's all good. Y'all, yeah, right? Y'all still young. Y'all look good.
Yes.
So to everybody that's watching this, y'all got to make sure, or if you're listening to this on podcast, you got to watch the video, because this is a beautiful couple right here. They look. So it's one of my favorites. Now let's talk about, I want to go about tough seasons, because we all have them, right? Y'all know me before my divorce, right? Like when we first met, I was previously married, hence the rebranding. And I've been very transparent about with that and our marriage and stuff like that, because we were married 15 years and divorced, So I guess the running joke is we were able to help other couples stay together, but we couldn't stay together. That's our running joke. So, but anyway, tough season. How did you get through it? And let's talk about it, because we all have them. Tough seasons in marriage.
Well, it's funny you say that, because you did help us, right, during our tough season. So we were at Arizona, that was our base. I got deployed in 2009, the end of 2009, about September of 2009. And, I had committed adultery pretty much over there, and came back, and, Nicole found out. So this brought us to, kind of like a ties. It was a year. We're pretty much a year into our marriage, and just not knowing what to do, how to do, when to do. I mean, she knew a little bit because she was married before, and me, over 27, 26, 27 then. Um, just like, it was a very sad situation, that I regret completely. And so needless to say, we got online. I think Nicole got online, and we found church, Kingdom in the Valley, and we were watching Pastor Steele, and well, both of them, Pastor Steele's, and we were just watching. And it's so funny that we found a marriage series that they were doing, or it was a previous one, but we were just watching it, and we were like, wow, this church seems pretty awesome. Just looking into it, excuse me, and Nicole was like, I think that was the Saturday, right? And Nicole's like, we're going, so, try and fix our marriage, see what we could do, And I never grew up in the church like that. I went with my friends, here and there. But I never really actually grew up in the church. So it's like, all right, whatever, whatever you want, whatever we could do to fix this marriage, And then we went to church, and we found you and Miss Lindina, and needless to say, you guys helped us so much, throughout the whole time. And I'll turn it over to Nicole
Yeah.
now.
I think just to rewind a little bit, when I found out, I instantly was like, deuces, like I'm out. I had just left a 7-year marriage, that involved the same thing. And I just was like, this is not my restart. Um, and I remember calling my mom at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was crying, and I'm like, Mom, I can't believe this. And my mom said, they call me Nikki. She was like, Nikki, you don't want to hear this, but she was like, I know that you love him. And I froze. I froze because I didn't want to hear that, but it was so true, and it was so profound. So it allowed me to stop and get my thoughts together and really focus on that specific sentence. So that's when we got on the computer, and I grew up in church, right? I know all the things. And so that's when he said, like, we're going to church. I'm like, there's nothing else that's going to save us but that, right? So it wasn't like I didn't ask him. I'm like, we're going. And so it wasn't by accident that Pastor Still and Pastor Kelly had shared the things that happened in their marriage, and we were right there in the thick of our feelings. And so, we went, and we went to the altar call, and just, by accident, you guys took us, and I'm all snot crying, like not anything that looked pretty. And we were broken, right? Like, and I think, to me, this full circle of us doing this with you is you saw us at our absolute worst. There hasn't been another moment in our marriage that we've experienced like that before. So for you to see us then, and to see us 15 years later, thriving, 4 kids later, you're like, God is good. And so I think, yeah, like that. And we haven't experienced anything else to that capacity, right? So I think when you know better, you do better. And we've allowed ourselves to get through that. And it is now a part that we can look at and talk about without crying and without being angry, because God restored every part of our lives. And I say our lives because it uncovered things in his individual life and in mine. We're trying to conceive our first child during that time. And, I had a miscarriage. So not only did I have to go through my husband, cheating, we lost a baby, which we had been trying to, and, other elders, were helping us through that. So like, when you talk about getting knocked down, like, God got our attention in so many ways, that we don't ever want to be in that place again.
Yeah. Amen to that. Yeah.
I know.
I mean, yeah, you guys, yeah, y'all almost got me in tears. I'm not going
I'm trying to joke up, like, I don't want my eyelashes to fall out, like, but it is like, I think for me, and I've really shared, we don't go around and like, hey, like we had this in our marriage, but like God has always put in our heart where we'll meet a couple who's going through something and we share it and it gives them hope. I think the best part of us is our transparency, and there's also been people that, I don't share it with because, judgment is real.
Of
And I
course.
don't want anyone to put a label on my husband and that he's this horrible person. But, we are that percentage of those that looked past the situation and trusted God in every part of us, and we had to pull back from friendships and friend groups to really focus. And that was very necessary to, we gave up our music. Like we literally went full throttle in our faith to be able to get centered back to where we needed to be in order to just eliminate whatever was going on around us that we had to pull away from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I just for some I just always felt a genuine love for just seeing the love for each other and being connected to y'all. I was like, this couple there's love here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So I
absolutely.
was just like, so to see y'all today, I'm just like, yeah. So
Yeah.
praise
Yeah,
God. I'm just happy that we're able to
absolutely.
have this conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's I want to talk, I want to ask y'all this individually. Nicole, ladies first. What is the biggest mistake you see women make in relationships?
I believe the biggest mistake is the first instinct is to run, right?
Mm,
Um, I think we feel that judgment of, girl, you stayed with him and he did that, versus really looking at, okay, well, he did this and this is what I see next, right? Seeing past the situation, seeing past the hurt. And again, if it wasn't for my mom, to be that person, to confirm that feeling, I didn't have someone in my circle telling me, girl, bye, like leave. I didn't have that. And so I, again, circling myself, my family is faith, based, and my friend circles. And so at that time, I didn't have a single person telling me to leave him,
mm,
and it wasn't that, they were telling me what I wanted to hear because I was out. Like, I think I had halfway packed my
mhm.
stuff,
Yeah.
to leave. And that's just being real and honest right now. And so for me, going to iron sharpens iron, right? We don't want someone to be giving us advice only during the good, right? I want someone to give me sound advice when I need to hear what I need to hear, not what I want to hear.
Hmm. And that's a true friend.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
A true friend. Hmm.
Absolutely.
Al, what is the biggest mistake you see men make in relationships?
Ooh. I mean, it kind of piggybacks off of what Nicole said too. Just knowing when to stick with it. You know what I mean? And not going down that path of like continuing to do the bad, the good, the bad, the ugly type thing. You want to try and mend your relationship. You want to try, and this doesn't just go for like cheating or anything like that. It's for everything. It's almost like argument and stuff like that. You have to know, what to say, when to say, how to say it. Especially they always use the phrase "happy wife, happy life," but at the same time, it should be both, right? Everyone should be happy. So you just have to know, like going down the right path and just sticking through it. And like, for me, like seek God because, like I said, I've never grew up in a church, and I've got, here and there, like I said, with my family members every now and again or with friends, but like just knowing what I know now, starting that kingdom and then, so on and so forth, like without God, none of this would have been possible. So like for the men, I would definitely, tell them like, please, like stick with it and find you a church, find you a good group of men, men of God that's going to help you throughout your situation, whatever you're going through.
Because during that season of Kingdom in the Valley, when we were all there, I just think it was something special during that time.
It really was. It really was. It's
Man.
like seasons, like we always say, like you're in this time for a certain season, So it's like it was definitely a good season to be in.
Yeah, of
So just to be there. I mean, the situation not so good, but
course.
order to get us there, it was amazing. So
I totally agree. Um, Nicole, from seeing your parents' relationship, what did it teach you about marriage?
So, my parents had the picture perfect relationship. And then they decided to get a divorce or to tell me they were getting divorced after I graduated from high school. And, I was shocked at the time. So my parents decided to, get a divorced after I graduated from high school. And, one of the things in, my profession as a guidance counselor is like you hear kids that are really shocked about that. But it really tore me up to be 18. And my parents were like, hey, like we're gonna split. You know, I never saw them fight. I never saw them argue. And so it wasn't until we started going to Kingdom, that, Pastor Still and Pastor Kelly would always preach like, hey, let your kids, see you disagree, let your kids like, see affection because I didn't see the good or the bad, right? My parents were not affectionate, with like the lovey-dovey stuff. And they really didn't show they didn't tell us or we didn't talk about the bad. So it was a little bit of a shocker to me. And their divorce wasn't the best. Unfortunately, my dad, went back to Detroit where he's from. And then, my mom was in Missouri. And, because divorces get pretty yucky, my dad didn't really speak to, my sister and I for about 14 years. And then as an adult, I had to let my dad know that what happened between them happened to them and that I loved him. And so we kind of rekindled when I moved here and I went to Detroit and saw him and and my dad passed away 3 years ago, so it's like, as an adult now and you have a parent, your parents, do the best that they can. And then, as an adult, I have chosen to take the things that I thought my parents did very well and bring it into my marriage. And the things that are not so good, I'm like, okay, we're not doing this, we're not doing that. So, for the most part, they were amazing parents, that, really kind of gave a blueprint as to how to be. My dad was the most amazing provider, so I think, when I look at Al, like I just was always surrounded by strong men, so that's something that I always, compare, to him. But I can't complain by how I was raised.
That's a blessing.
Yeah.
Al, from seeing your parents' relationship, what did it teach you about marriage?
wow. So then this is a big one for me. So I mean, starting off, I guess, I thought my parents had a, good relationship. My dad was he worked. My mom was just a housewife, but my mom was like on the scale of house, like what I see throughout my childhood. Like it was like back Wilma, the Flintstone, like she would do everything, you know what I mean? And like just growing up throughout and knowing a little more and seeing more, it's like my dad don't really do anything but work, come home and eat. You know what I mean? Like he wouldn't really like he wasn't he wasn't really an affectionate dad or anything like that. We kind of got that from my mom. And it was just me and my sister. My sister's 3 years older than me. But so and then, fast forward, they're still together, but they're not together. My dad, like, so he retired, like he did 27 years in the Army Reserve, regular Army and National Guard. And went to Iraq, just mind like so I think he's right now he's diagnosed with bipolar, like all types of stuff. Like he's
Just struggling
yeah,
mentally.
mentally he's struggling, lost two houses, one when I was pretty much right before I was going in the military, he lost that house just doing I don't want to say dumb stuff, but like, of course when you're in that manic stage and your mental is not correct, you do things that doesn't make sense, and lost a house, then I went in the military. I had, just all types of stuff. I could go on and on, like identity theft, like, cause I'm a junior and, so all he needed was my social and, I had to take emergency leave one time to, what do you call it? Voluntary repossess a vehicle that he bought in my name, all types of stuff. So anyways, so like I said, they're together, but they don't live together. My dad, he goes from house to house, all types of stuff. So it's a very sad situation. I try to do what I can to got him in the hospital a few times, but of course with mental health, if the person doesn't say like, hey, something's wrong, excuse me, something's wrong with me, or I want help, if they don't ask for it, they'll keep you to 72 hours and then they'll send you on your way pretty much. And we tried multiple times. But anyway, so what I've learned from that is basically not to do what they do at all, and I do struggle with that, and just learning with Nicole, and she helps me out a lot to kind of see like, yeah, you probably learned this from your dad. This type of behavior probably came from your dad, type thing.
And I think not so much. Well, and I mean, like, not so much as learning from his dad, but because his parents are older, back then that generation was very much like the woman takes care of that and he was the worker. And, so just picking up those tendencies, not so much as you get that from your dad, but if that was all that you witnessed in your house, that's all that you have to go off of. So just pointing out things. But I think for me, at the beginning, we have two different spectrums of how we were both what we saw. And one of the things that I remember Elder Trimble sharing with us, because we did home builders, and making provisions for your marriage, right? And it was so profound to me because you think you do your vows, these are the things that you say that you can't do, but adding in things that are like, hey, this is a deal breaker for me. And it was like so powerful that he said that, because you don't think of that when you're going into a marriage, versus there are some things that are just not in the Bible, or things that you're like, hey, like this is very, very important to me. And if you break this, like this is the thing. So, putting in things like that. I am an amazing mother, but I am not domesticated. So hearing him and seeing his mom being so domesticated, I don't measure up to his mom, right? And so for Al to have grown up with this mom who clips toenails, I ain't doing that, baby. Like that is not going
I don't want her to, I promise.
He doesn't, but it helps me to see the perspective of what I think his mom and his dad is just, oh my gosh, that will never happen. I had to put myself in the perspective of, hey, what do you see in a wife? Like being that you grew up and you saw your mom do this to your dad, what do you want from me? And then going from there to say, okay, I can maybe do that. I can do this. But we had to talk about it because, again, like I didn't see my mom doing any of that for my dad, and that wasn't right or wrong. But, we had to get on the same page about that.
Yeah. I agree, because I think sometimes two things we don't discuss is our boundaries. When we get into it, we don't discuss boundaries because we're afraid we might lose somebody.
Yeah.
And then we don't discuss, because I always tell people, you can extend grace to someone when you understand their backstory.
Absolutely.
Because I was going to ask you, Al, like, how did that switch from seeing your mom being a housewife to having a wife that works a full-time job and got kids? Like, how was that for you mentally?
So it's funny you say that, because like I am domesticated.
Yes, he's
so,
very domesticated.
Like I do like pretty much, I don't do all the cleaning, but I wash the clothes, do all that good stuff. But so I mean, it wasn't, I guess, I don't know, it wasn't too bad. We both kind of share majority of it, but like I said, I am domesticated, so I don't look for her to be like, hey, why didn't you do this, or hey, why didn't you do that type thing. So it wasn't a bad of a switch. I think it's more so on the on my dad's side, to where like what I did see, like, and that's what Nicole was talking about a little bit. But that was one thing that we, and things come up daily, every now and again, and stuff like that. So, and we know what to do and how to do it, and we fix it. So.
And he washes the clothes, he grocery shops, like he knows the price of milk. I don't. So I would say like, but I say like, and I think this is one of the things where you talk about like what you do right and what you do wrong. Like, I think if Al could tell you, like, there's so many moments where I'm like, man, I'm so thankful that you know this. I'm so thankful that you love to do this, right? Because we are like, he's like the calm to me, and like we complement each other in the areas that we don't have, so I was very thankful, for him. And I always credit his dad, right? Like I have vocalized to his dad multiple times. I'm like, thank you for raising such a caretaker and a manly man. If there is, in Florida, we have these palmettos. So they're like Florida's cockroaches. They're like little dinosaurs with wings. And Al will go over and like we'll be freaking out. And he'll go and he'll get it. And he says, like, what you don't realize is like, well, like I'm kind of scared too. But like if you talk to me or our kids, like Al is he is the strong, fearless person. So I have told his dad that multiple times, that like he has raised him to be such a powerful like figure in our house where no one's scared when he's here, so in that aspect, watching his dad be that to them, like, I appreciate that part of it.
That's beautiful.
It is.
I love that. Yeah, because there's a story I want to tell, but I guess I'll save it for a later time. This is about y'all. But
Yeah.
I do wash dishes and I wash clothes and stuff too. So I feel
Yes.
you. Yeah, because
Yeah.
we got to make it work in this household. You got to do what's best for you and your household.
Yes.
What people say and what a woman should do what works for you.
Yes. And it's funny you say that, Sean, because like, we'll be around other couples and they'll tell Nicole like, oh, you don't, because she'll tell you to this day she don't know how to wash clothes. It's not that she never learned. I mean, well, I guess she never really learned.
I didn't have to.
You didn't have to, right? So it's like, it works for us. Just like what you said, whatever works for you, do it.
So I never
have a problem with it at all.
We don't. Like people will think that, like, and we're like, that's just how our marriage has worked out. And so we meet each other where they are. It made me think of it because we love The Best Man and The Best Man Holiday, right? And like, it's like, we could probably recite every word. But, I think it was the second one where they talked about the 80-20, right? And we feel like if there's a month that I can only give 30, like, hey, like Al's going to pick it up. And so we don't believe in that 50-50 thing, in our finances, in what we give physically. And so that started day one, because in my previous marriage, like we had separate bank accounts. We had like our cars were in separate names, and I didn't want to have that. It was very mental to me, going into this marriage, and everything was so compartmentalized. So that was something that was real strong, that we were like, hey, first day, like this is what we're not going to do. And we were both on the same page about it.
I love it. Do y'all know who Brene Brown is? Brene Brown, she does a lot of stuff on like vulnerability and stuff like that. Anyway, very popular woman. But I was watching a TikTok from hers, and she said one key that works for her marriage is whenever her or her husband comes home, they say, "Babe, I'm only operating on 30% today." So when they get in the house, they already know you're not expecting Al to wash the clothes, because Al come in the house and he says, "Babe, I only got 30%."
Oh yeah.
So when
I
you
love
respect that.
Yeah, absolutely. We that's good. One thing that we do is, like my job is always, there's always, something, and it's very emotionally taxing sometimes to spend a day just hearing all the bad. And so one of the rules that we put into place was we would not come into the house and bring work into the house. So there's been times where I'm sitting in the driveway finishing up a phone call with him to tell him about my day, because when I stepped in, like I wanted to be present, not only for the kids, but for him too. So that was something that we put into place to be able to just be present in our home, to leave work at the door. My dad was military, and his dad was, and military is never ending. It never stops. And so, it's very hard to not bring that home. And we'd be lying to say that, the military doesn't value the spouse and the family, so those are things that we work through as well, that, my dad, if he deployed, like my mom was it, and my mom took care of us, and my dad didn't even think about my mom and all the sacrifices, so that was something, with us being, a family of 6, like 4 kids, and, I'll thug it out and not let him know that I'm suffering, because that's just my personality. But, always recentering ourselves back to each other, has been very important. And when we decided, we knew that we wanted to have 3 kids, of our own, one of the promises that we made to each other was that we weren't going to lose ourselves in that. So if we go and we have like a little drink and we come back home, like we at least try to do that once a week, to still be tapped into each other, so our marriage doesn't do what my parents did. Carlton left, but we still have the littles. But, a lot of parents leave or their kids leave and parents are looking at each other like, hi, who are you? What's your name?
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that my dad said. My dad felt like my mom put my sister and I before him, and he didn't feel seen, and he felt neglected. And my mom wanted to be a mom from the time that she, grew up. She always wanted to be a mom, and she was an amazing mom, but she forgot about her husband, and it sadly, ended in divorce. And so I would be lying to you if I, was guilty about that, because I saw my mom do it, right? We're talking about marriage. I saw my mom do it, and, and then I had to rewind, like, because we serve our kids first, and I'm supposed to serve my husband, so there was a lot of like, rewind, let me do this right, but just acknowledging it in that moment, like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And, but just being present, to not, make the same mistakes again.
I agree. That's a show within itself.
Yeah.
We'll talk about
Sign
that.
us up.
Yeah, right. Okay, we're gonna because we have 2 kids together, and my wife and I, and both of our boys have autism. So now here it is. And look, I'm starting over, right? I'm like, I'm 46 with little kids and diapers. I'm like, damn, we get here we go. You know what I'm saying? So and that's an episode within itself. But I would like to talk about that later with kids and prioritizing a spouse, because
absolutely,
I think a lot of couples struggle with that. Question: is it easier? No right or wrong answer. Al, is it easier to love yourself or someone else?
I'm going to say someone else, I think.
Okay.
Because a lot of times, I know me and Nicole will go not back and forth, but I feel like I do a lot of things like for someone else, rather than for me. You know what I mean? And I'm very easy, laid back, so I'm like, I don't need a lot, type thing. So I think I would much rather make sure this person, Nicole, is taken care of, and then I'm like, all right, I'll take care of myself on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I feel that.
Mm-hmm.
Nicole, is it easier to love yourself or someone else?
I'm in a journey of self-care, right? I lost my dad 3 years ago, and it, gosh, here we go. It has rocked my world. And I have allowed Al to love me and see me in my worst, sorry, the worst part of my life. And so, because I always took care of everyone and my kids and, my husband, that I had to start finding things to do for me. So, I've been on the other side where I can love, I think even now, gosh, I will probably do both at the same time, but I've been on this journey of loving me and getting myself through this time, so that I can be healthy to be a great wife and a great mom at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I love it. This is transparency at its finest. And Nicole, it's funny you say that, because my wife now is in this journey where she's starting to do stuff for herself, because she's the oldest of 6.
Yeah.
And she's always raising and helping other people.
Yeah.
So when it comes to her trying to help herself or do something for herself, she's like, what am I going to do? Because I'm used to taking care of everybody else.
Yeah.
So I get that. Last question. This is bonus. Which is hardest for you to say, Al? Is it A, I apologize, B, I need help, C, I love you, D, I was wrong? Which is the hardest for you to say?
What was B again?
B was I need help.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest, because I apologize a lot, I think. All right. I think it's very hard for me to say I need help, because I hate to say manly man, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think overall it's very hard for a man to say, like, or let someone know, especially his wife or someone of that nature, like, hey, I need help. Like whether it's finances, whether it's anything, something emotionally like, hey, I need help with this, I think that's kind of hard. Um, I do, I guess I do it sometimes, but out of those four, I would say that would be the hardest one.
Hmm. Which is the hardest for you, Nicole? I apologize. I need help. I love you. I was wrong. Which is the
I
hardest?
would I would say, which it's funny, I would say the health part. I think I do not strive to be Superwoman, but I will do it all and not ask for help. And that's probably a flaw in our marriage, right? Because we will like have phone calls where we have not asked each other for help with something, or some details have gotten lost in the shuffle, and we're like, hey, like we got to get this together. Like 15 years of marriage, we don't have these communication issues, and we'll figure it out. But we both struggle in that area to utilize each other. And, my mom lives here where we live. She lives actually a mile and a half away from us. And she always reminds us, like, y'all are over there trying to do it all. Like, I am here to help you. So that's kind of funny that we both picked the same thing. I think that we both are really good about apologizing, right? Whether it's through, like, I laughed because he said he apologized a lot. I will send me a 5-page text of all the things he's sorry for after the fact, and I respect it, right? And we tell each other we love each other, like, I would say multiple times a day. We're good at those things, but you know, communicating and kind of being vulnerable with what we're struggling in, it's a work in progress.
And it's funny you say that, because I find that a lot of couples, and even married couples, struggle with this. So, my whole thing is, because I struggle with it too, because my wife and I, we like to kind of outserve each other. So I'm like, I'll try to be Superman. And I'm like, go and relax. She's like, no, but you can't be Superman because Superman gets tired. Superman running the kryptonite. And I'm like,
Very
you know what I'm saying? So I need help. And I think it's just a level of vulnerability that we have to be open with, because we're going to get older and we're going to really need that help.
Yeah.
So we might as well start training each other now and saying, I need help.
But I think too, like we don't really realize like what degree of help people need. I remember, like, I am such a planner and I'm organized, and after my dad had passed, I was struggling, and I've been in therapy every week for the last 3 years. And so I remember, like, my mom and my stepdad and Al, like, if it's somebody's birthday, they're like, hey, Nikki, do you have the cake? Do you have this? And I had to say, like, hey, like, right now, like, I need y'all's help. Right. And it wasn't until I said it out loud that my stepdad was like, well, I'm really sorry. Like, we look at you for everything and not even being aware that you are struggling. And so, again, because, my profession is to talk to people about the things that I'm currently struggling in, I think we react when someone asks for help. We have to assume the worst versus they're just asking for, some extra time, or they're asking for this. And so I think we're not used to people being vulnerable to talk about, the bad, that it is like shocking when somebody shares that. And then it makes them not want to ask for help anymore. So that's coming from, someone who deals with that, So I don't know.
Yeah. I agree, because that's an episode within itself too. I want to talk about.
I'm gonna write your script, Sean.
we need that vulnerability, because I think it's a blessing when you can say, Al, I need your help, and Al comes through.
Yeah.
And I think it just helps mesh the relationship. I think it makes it stronger because you opened up to your spouse, because everybody don't deserve that part of you.
Yeah. I mean, I think, when my dad passed away, like, it was, I mean, for him, I think you lost your wife for a little bit, right? And I think, getting to the other side of it, um, it has strengthened us, because we had never experienced that, with each other. And so to see your wife, like, not get out of the bed for 2 weeks and not take a shower, and, like, there was that that there was that. And so by me getting to a place where I couldn't even help myself, like he had to help me, you know,
See,
had to help me.
that's good. Oh my God, this has been a wonderful segment. Oh my God, I need to release this video like now because it is phenomenal. So much wisdom and nuggets in this. I want to thank you, first of all, for both just for being transparent. Y'all will always be a part of my life and my journey.
Yes.
So that makes it just that much more interesting. Anybody who's watching this, who's listening to this, if you listen to this via podcast, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure that you leave a rating and review. By doing so, it leaves you in a drawing for a free Amazon gift card. Who doesn't like free stuff? So make sure you leave a rating and review by listening to this via podcast. If you are watching this via YouTube, make sure you share this with someone because marriages are thriving out here. Don't get it twisted. I don't care what social media say. This is why I'm dropping this series, because I know these people and healthy marriages do exist. So make sure you share this with someone. You just never know who might be in need. Somebody might need help, so help them.
Yes.
Nicole and Al, thank you so much for taking time out of your
you.
day. I appreciate this.
Love you. Yes.
For sure. Always love. Thank you so much, Brave Hearts community. Make sure you leave a comment below. We'd love to hear in the comment section, what was the biggest takeaway in this segment of the show? I would like to know how Al and Nicole was able to help in this segment. Hey, thanks again for watching another segment of It's Scary to Remarry. I have so much more amazing content and some phenomenal guests as well. People who've been through a divorce, people who remarried, people who desire to marry. So much great content. So make sure that you hit one of these videos. It's somewhere around here. But anyway, go watch another video. Thank you.